Warning. This video may contain excessive amount of dead-level humor. Prepare for bad jokes. Viewer discretion is advised, so watch responsibly. Proceed with caution and a sense of humor. You've been warned.
Greetings, adventurers and foodies. Are you ready to burst, blast and shock your way through Azeroth? If so, I hope this guide won't come as a shock to you, but you're in for a blast. In fact, I'm here to lava burst your bubble of what you thought was possible in the elemental arts, so grab your totems. Let's dive into the build that's hotter than the magma at the heart of Blackrock Mountain. But first, let's head over to Chromie. While we grab a few experience potions, let's run through those battlegrounds like a true classic elemental shaman and just plow our way to level 60. See you in a second. Alright folks, let's ground ourselves and focus on the core elements of this powerhouse build. We're talking Elemental Blast, Lava Burst and our shockingly good friend the Shock spells. These aren't just any spells, they're the bread and butter of this build, worth their salt. Or should I say, the Elemental Fire. As we forge our path to level 60, these spells will shape our journey but also define our very essence on the battlefield. It's the striking balance between power, precision and the sheer thrill of unleashing elemental fury upon your enemies, seeing those nice big chunky crits. Now to the actual build itself, let's right directly into it. For this build, we're starting level 1 with Earthshock, Tether Elemental, Arcane Intellect, Lightning Bolt. For the carded abilities, we're running Elemental Blast, Lava Burst, Flame Shock, Frost Shock. For the talented cards, we're running Primordial Aftershock, Elemental Lord, Elemental Fury, Elemental Domination, Tethered Power and Booming Thunder. As you can see, I normally don't have red squares in the middle of this, but let's quickly go over them. The reason why I've put in the red squares, as you can see here, all around those extra shocks, that's because they are really the other type of shock that you can get. Each shock, Earth Shock, Flame Shock, Frost Shock, have a alternative version. The Stone Shot for the Earth Shock, the Frost Flame Shock for the Flame Shock, the Frost Blast for the Frost Shock. The Frost Flame Shock and the Frost Blast, they each have a cast time. I have found these to not be worth it, so you can thank me for testing that, as these are basically a global cooldown that could have gone faster. And therefore you won't Flame Shock and you won't Frost Shock because you're gonna have so many buttons to press in this build. Or you're in lack of cooldowns is more the correct terms. So the Stone Shard, if you get that, keep it. It's basically a Earth Shock with a bit longer cooldown, but it deals a lot more damage. So keep this. One might even say it could be worth skipping Frost or Flame Shock to grab Stone Shard and be a high roller and try to get Flame Shock or Frost Flame or Frost Shock or Blast in that regard. Simply because it deals more damage, and Stone Shard and Elemental Blast or Earth Shock, Elemental Blast, regarding what you have, that's gonna be like 50% of our damage. So keep that in mind, it might actually be worth it, that I have not tested. So, for this build, we're also using Elemental Blast, and the reason I've carded this also is because we have this thing called Elemental Domination. Elemental Domination basically removes the cooldown that's normally on Elemental Blast, allowing us to just spam away with it. Whenever we are spamming, we're getting buffs. Whenever we hit a target with Elemental, not when we cast, when we hit a target with Elemental Blast, we're getting stacks, or let's say buffs, in the Elemental Lord department. The Elemental Lord gives a bonus power to either Earth Shock, Flame Shock, or Frost Shock. The Frost Shock variant is basically so you deal more damage with Frost Shock, and when you consume the buff, let's just say that by using Frost Shock, you get a secondary buff, and it's the same for Flame Shock and the same for Earth Shock. Each buff gives a buff to the actual shock, and it gives an after effect in some way. I'm just gonna quickly pull up a picture of Elemental Lord so you can read the description yourself. It's quite long, so I'm not gonna go over it to keep this guide precise and short. Other than that, we're running Tethered Power, which is original a Elemental Lord thing, and that's basically whenever our Tether Elemental crit A's with something, our Elemental Blast gets a bonus. So the more your pet crits, the more bonus you get for Elemental Blast, and the more damage you deal. So that's quite simple. Other than that, we chosen Primordial Aftershocks, which basically does whenever you're critting with Elemental Blast or Lava Burst, your shock spells go in and have a reduced cooldown. So that's it, they just reduce the cooldown. That's what it does. But it basically enables us, whenever we crit a lot, to keep the flow going. And the more crit you have, the more smooth this build gonna be, and the more damage you also do. So it's a complete win-win. As this build, you want to crit as much as possible, and therefore we also gone with the Elemental Fury, because we're Elemental build. You could take Burnout for this one, the fire version. However, I'd suggest go with Elemental Fury for this, just for the theme of it, if you like. And then for the last one, we have Booming Thunder. The reason we've chosen Booming Thunder is because we're already using Earth Shock and we're using Elemental Blast. Normally you would use Booming Thunder with Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning and Booming Thunder, going into a huge Earth Shock together with Thunderstorm and whatnot. Whenever we use Elemental Blast, we get 1 stack for Booming Thunder. That 1 stack can go up to 20, and each stack increase the Earth Shock 15. So it goes 15, 30, 45, 60, and so on, all the way till 20 stacks, so 300%. It's gonna deal some very big chunky crits with your Stone Shard. The more you crit, the higher the crit chance. If you can reach, I believe it's 50% base crit with spells, you can have almost guaranteed a crit strike with your Earth Shock. And that's when it's really starting, because that's your big chunk. That's gonna deal so much damage the more you crit. So this is just one of those cases where the better gear you have for this build, the more crit you have for this build, the better it becomes. So yeah, just to keep it up. But this is the core that you basically want. I know there's a lot of legendary talents here, so bear in mind you need a few talent cards to make this work, but when it does, it's actually quite fun. And if you're tired of seeing One with the Light, Double Down Dark Intent, Lava Sweeper, Wild Aims, all those cards, kinda, this could actually be the build for you. It's not gonna be competing toe to toe with them, but you can get it up to plus 10k with some investment. With the right gear, you can get this to 10k DPS. So let's get on to what would you like to roll when you're doing this build, because that's also what's going to take this to the next level. So for this time, I'm actually going to cover the green section real fast, then we're moving on to the blue, the purple, and then the legendary, of course. So let's get into it. You want for abilities, buff, auras, aspects, whatever that can just passively help you without you having to do anything really. For the rare section, you want movement skills, interrupts always as a DPS. Of course, that's kind of like the bread and butter of almost anything. You want big AoE abilities, as this is a single target build. It doesn't excel in area damage unless you get Flame Ascendant, which we'll get back to. You want things like stances, and when I say stances, I'm thinking Moonkin Form, I'm thinking Nibble Mind, Molten Mind, I'm thinking Twisting Mind, I believe it's called. Then you want things like Molten Armor or Fell Armor, anything like that that can just help you scale that spell power or critical strike rating. Other than that, you want Elemental Mastery and you want Shamanistic Rage, but Shamanistic Rage is a bit so-so, because if you get Shamanistic Rage, that's so fine, keep it for this build, and we're gonna get back to that, why. But first, let's go over here. You want the Flame Ascendant, and the reason why I'm putting it here is because if you get it, it's gonna be so huge. When you hit with the Elemental Blast, as mentioned earlier, you get all these buffs for your shocks. If you get Flame Ascendant, you can pop Flame Ascendant, and then you can go directly into a buffed version of a Flame Shock that will hit 10 targets. Yeah. So basically you're gonna have a Flame Shock that's hitting 10 targets, and it will deal crazy AoE damage. Like really, that's gonna be extremely good for this build to get. So really, this is like one of the best AoE abilities that you can get, and what's gonna be able to take you to AoE, take your AoE to the next level, basically. Arcane Power, great for any spellcaster build, basically, and Flame Tongue Weapon because it just passively gives you more spell power, and you don't have anything else really that's gonna help you with that. For the talents, Hit, Talents, of course, and Mana Sustain, that's kinda like, you need them, you can get them on gear, but yeah, you need them, basically. For the rare section here, we're going for the on-hit effects with specific shocks, like we're talking Frozen Flame for the Frost Shock. Other than that, you're dealing a bunch of nature damage, so as a reference to my last build, grab Tesla Coil Collar, you're using a pet. So yeah, that could help you alleviate a bit of your AoE problem. Also, this could actually help a bit if you get it. Other than that, generic Frost Flame, nature damage, talents that's just increasing nature or any of the other damage types basically. But primarily go for nature damage if you can. For anything else, haste talents. Basically, anything that gives you haste for your character, that's gonna be amazing. Moving on to the epic session, any on-hit ability like Legacy of the Darkest, all the other things that does Purification by Light, something like that, that does a on-hit effect. Call of Flames, more lava burst damage. Elemental weapons, as linked here before, you need both of these elemental weapons and Flame Tongue in order to benefit from elemental weapons. So yeah, have fun with that. And now for the interesting part. Shamanistic Rage with Primordial Fury, Unleashed Rage, Endless Shamanistic Rage. This is where your build can pop off if you get them all. For these to be good, you kinda like need just one or two of them together with Shamanistic Rage. So let's go over what do they do. Whenever you pop Shamanistic Rage, your melee hit have a chance to gain mana. That's not very exciting in general when you're playing a spellcaster, but let's go over this. When you're affected by Shamanistic Rage, Unleashed Rage gives you more damage for nature. That's gonna help you out with your spells in all general. So Elemental Blast will just deal more damage. Your Earth Shock will deal more damage. Endless Shamanistic Rage increase the Shamanistic Rage buff whenever you crit by a few seconds. And Primordial Fury, that's just basically all the rage that you're generating while hitting with spells. Yes, you actually do that. You are basically going to be able to use that rage to deal more damage with your abilities as long as you are affected by Shamanistic Rage. So yeah, it's just one big symphony if you get all these four, both ability and these 3 talents here. It's one big symphony. However, if you get either Primordial Fury, Shamanistic Rage, or you get Shamanistic Rage with just Unleashed Rage, that's fine also. But what's really gonna take it to the next level is if you got all 4 things. So yeah, moving on to what's really gonna take this to the next level. Spell power and crit talents. I can't stress enough, the more this build crits, the better it becomes, period. For that regard, also getting it Ignite here, that's gonna be amazing for you. It's gonna help you alleviate some of the low damage, but you can just take it up a notch with things like a huge lava burst crit can just suddenly help you get more damage output, like a few hundred DPS in there every time it crits. So yeah, this is gonna be fantastic. Reverberation is also amazing. Shamanistic Focus, Storm, Earth and Fire, Lava Flows is just generic damage talents all over, and Concussion is also generic talent. What I'd really say are the most important ones would be Ignite, Reverberation, Booming Echoes, crit talents. Those are the most important together with Concoction. And then if you get Crackling Echoes, it kinda need Booming Echoes in order to work. So yeah, that's about it. So for the actual Mystic Enchants, you should see this going over to a new picture right about now. And for this section, we've actually chosen to go with the Mystic Enchants. That's Booming Echoes, and then we've chosen Critical Mass, we've chosen Lava Flows, we've chosen some Hit, Lunar Guidance, Concussions, and Wizard Elemental Blast, just to get that extra mana every time we use often when we use Elemental Blast, and it increases our spell power. So we're now level 60, and everybody, let's take a look at it. I've gone up to the 2500 mark, if you can say it like that, which will probably be around 80 to 100k investment if you don't have a lot of prestige levels. So let's get into it. I have rolled okay with this build for a low investment, is what I would call 80 to 100k mark of Ascension. And let's just get straight into what I rolled. I did get every of the special shock spells that you can get. I got Stone Shard, Frostblast, and Frost Flame, and I've tested those compared to the Frost Shock, Flame Shock combo, and I can tell it's better to just use Flame Shock, Frost Shock, and then Stone Shard. Those are the 3 I would suggest using for this. We got a bunch of buffs like Power Word, Shadow Word Protection, Divine Spirit, and then we got Twisted Mind, which is amazing for this build. It's just basically hit chance and more spell power. Other than that, we got a few abilities like Winterfall, Fire Breath, and we did actually manage to roll Shamanistic Rage together with Primordial Fury. So that's actually gonna help us quite a bit. Other than that, for talent, we are unfortunately a bit unlucky in that regard, as we did not roll a lot of crit talents and we only got 2 out of 3 in booming echoes. Getting this to 3 out of 5 and getting a bunch more crit talents would just elevate this build a lot more than what I can show you today, and also getting reverberation up is also gonna help us out, as I mentioned earlier in the what would you like to roll section. If you get this up, it's just gonna help you immensely, and then you can combine this one together with the let's just see with it. Let's just say reverberation. Sorry, the booming thunder. That's right. So basically, it gives more stack for the booming thunder. So yeah, let's get straight into it, because other than that, we did roll quite decent. I'd say this is what you can expect from a 80 to 100k build, probably. We also got things like Enlightenment together with Mind Mastery, which is more spell power, so we are sitting at 1300, but I know that can be much higher, and as you can see, we only have 29 fire crit and 25 for nature critting. So yeah, that would be better if it were near like 50%. That would just elevate this build so much. But without further ado, I'm going to show you, and on the training dummy here I'm buffed up, and let's just see what it can do. I also made a neat little weak aura for you guys that I'm going to upload. It's basically gonna help you track the booming thunder, the buff from elemental frost, so you know when to use lava burst, and then it's gonna track whenever you can use the fire shock, the frost shock, or the earth shock for the extra bonuses. When we're playing this build here, as you can see, I'm just gonna go straight in. I get a frost shock, I use frost shock buff, and that's gonna give me a buff for lava burst, and then of course you can see all the things. Now, what does each do? The frost is basically causing your next lava burst to solidify, dealing extra damage. The flame shock is empowering our flame shock to have more direct damage, and its periodic damage have chance to reset the cooldown of lava burst. And the earth shock buff is basically a aftershock that deals a bit more damage over a few seconds. As you can see here, I'm just spamming away at elemental blast. It's nothing big, and that's not what's gonna keep it up. So I'm gonna reset the DPS meter, and I'm gonna just try and show you guys what you can expect with this build. This little tracker right here, that's the booming thunder tracker. So whenever you reach 20, you're going to use stone shard or earth shard. If you do not have 20 stacks, do not use it. The more stacks you have, the more crit you have, and as you can see here, it's 300% damage and 40% crit strike damage bonus. So whenever you crit with it, this is going to hit so hard. So I'm just gonna stop spamming elemental blast and actually use a combo here. Let's get to it. And as you can see there, that's the buffs that we're getting. So let's get keep going and just hit with whatever we can. As you can see, we're building up here, and I'm gonna pop 21k. I believe that was a 21k. So let's try and reset and see here how much I can do in 500k damage. as you can see, we're sitting on a solid 5k around here. If you were better to utilize whenever you get the buffs here, that would of course be a lot better. So let's just get into it here and keep pumping until we reach 500,000, so you can get a nice idea of what we can do. As you saw, it was around 10k hit with the stone shock here, and well, while it's nice, you basically want to crit as the buff gives you increased crit strike damage bonus. So the more you crit, the more max damage you're going to deal, and that's just gonna elevate the build. So crit, 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 more crit. That should be the focus of this basically. As you can see, that was a 20k crit. Okay, I think that's probably gonna do well enough. So as you can see, at an entry level, we can already dish out around it went down, of course, but yeah, you can already expect to dish out 5k DPS, which is so fine for entry level build here. It takes a bit of ramp up, of course, but that's gonna be very fast. It's 5 elemental blast at maximum, and you're at max charges for your booming thunder. For the build, I'm just gonna, it just changed, there we go. So for the build itself, as you can see here, I'm pulling it up. Elemental blast, stone shot, and frost shock is actually dealing a big chunk of our damage. And you might say that the frost shock is not dealing anything. Well, the frost shock is making the lava burst deal more damage. You could opt for not using lava burst frost shock combo and go with something else. That might actually be very worth it. I would say you can try and tinker with the idea of skipping in the actual skill card wherever you pick. You can try and skip the frost shock and try and experiment it. So if I just pull it up here and instead go for like flame ascendant and ignite, and you can go for the burnout instead of the yeah, you can try and go for the burnout instead of the elemental fury here. So that might actually be very viable. I don't know, so you just like running the elemental lord theme still and booming thunder, so you're just using spamming away at elemental blast and stone shots, and then you're just flame ascending, flame shocking everything, and you're saving your skill cards for things like arcane power, and you could also opt in for a guaranteed flame ascendant if you have it. So that's the alternative route that you could go. Other than that, you could see that our Legacy of Arcanus that did like 8 to 9% of our damage, so that's quite decent. The aftershock from Elemental Lord is not that great, and other than that, it's really down the drain from there. But that's the build. I hope you like it. As our adventures draws to a close, remember the path of the elemental shaman is unpredictable as the weather in Westfall, but with this build I hope that you really like it. So if you're ready to rain down some serious elemental fury upon your foes, give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, and really I hope that this build can inspire some people to take it to the next level, and just let's see something else on the top DPS meters. So without further ado, feel free to adjust anything that you've seen and have fun trying to make your elemental shaman work better than mine. And good luck rolling.